Welcome to another episode of the Perception Evolution Project. We're going to be continuing, excuse me, we're going to be continuing on with our latest series, Blue is the New White, where we talk about the perception in the industry that trades are menial and low-paying jobs. Today we've got special guest Micah Dyer from the company that he works at. I'm not going to mention it right now, but that's who we've got for today. So, Micah, why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. I've been in this industry for a little over 8 years now. I kind of stumbled into it on accident. A friend of a friend of a friend, I think, maybe there was a couple more people in there, told me about a company that was hiring, looking for account managers. It turned out to be a company that was in this space, and I immediately fell in love with it, basically the day I started. I have held positions from being a dispatcher to accounting to account management, service manager, business development manager. My most recent role, or what I typically do, is business development. So I'll handle bringing on new clients, managing the account management team to keep the current clients happy. Usually the CSRs kind of fall under that as well.
Can you explain CSR for those?
CSRs, customer service reps. So when a customer calls in and says, my air conditioner's on fire, those are the people who are answering.
Oh, cool.
So that's what I've just been doing for the last 8 years.
All right, great. What'd you do before that?
Well, I was still in school before that. So I was holding down just random jobs. I was a telemarketer for a while. I sold used cars, which is painful when you tell people that you used to be a used car salesman. So I kind of just did anything. I started working when I was 22 in this industry. So everything before that was just kind of part-time jobs.
Jobs, part-time, okay. Did you go to college?
I did. I started college. I met my wife, and she was a lot farther along in college than I was, but we both didn't have enough money to keep going to college. So she stayed to finish. Plan was for me to get a job and then go back to school, but I just loved it so much I didn't feel like I had to go back. I found what I wanted to do with my career. So
Okay, great.
she's still in school, actually.
Oh, really?
Yep.
For what?
So she became a nurse, and now she's becoming a certified nurse midwife, which is a master's degree. So she's been in some form of college basically since the day we got married.
Wow.
She's got 2 more years left of that.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
We talk a lot on this podcast about college, and there's certain professions that college is an absolute necessity, and certain professions that's just not.
Yeah.
What did you go to college for?
Well, at the time, so I didn't really know what I wanted to be. I was going for hospital administration.
Okay.
My grandma worked for the president of a hospital out in Florida, and that seemed really cool to me. So that's kind of what I was getting into. I didn't really get into those classes. I was still in my general education at the time. So.
Okay. Did you know about the trades or anything pertaining to the trades when you were in high school?
No, I mean, I knew of air conditioners, right? But it just wasn't something that I'd ever thought about until I started working in it, and I realized this is a huge industry and there's a lot of work that goes into it. So.
Yeah. That's another thing. We talk a lot about perceptions and this and that. When I was in high school, I had no idea. I had no idea what the trades were. I started my career in the trades in commercial cooking equipment, commercial kitchen equipment, and I knew I ate at restaurants. And that's about the extent of my knowledge. I knew that they had to cook the food somehow and keep it cold somehow. But the thought literally never crossed my mind that somebody had to be responsible for maintaining that equipment. And, so I've always kind of asked myself, why was I never taught about this in high school? Like, how? It's not that necessarily anybody was like, no, you don't want to do that. It's that nobody mentioned it. Like, to me, it didn't exist. Until I understood what my dad did for a living, and then I was like, oh, okay, exactly. I got it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's very interesting how it transpires and how it seems kids these days are pushed towards college, even if that's clearly not the path that either they want or that they're capable of doing because of either financial means or, if they don't like school, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So how long before you went to college did you know that's what you were going to go to college for? Was that like a split decision towards the end of high school, or did you go up and like...
Yeah, I kind of knew that that's what household administration being, I kind of knew that's what I was going to go for. But I knew I didn't really have to make a choice yet. So I was just kind of getting my my general educational studies out of the way. And then I figured I'd know by then exactly what I was going to do. And household administration sounded great. It was a high-paying job. It was prestigious. It was something that you should totally put on a resume, right? So it was something I was excited about. And then once I got into this industry, I mean, it really was love at first sight.
Yeah.
It's an industry that I understand. It's an industry that's, I say I understand it. What I should say, it's easy to understand. It's easy to understand. It's something that I feel good about. It feels great knowing that this restaurant is up and running because of something that I did. Mm-hmm. And I just don't see myself ever leaving this space.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool that you were able to see both sides of the coin. You went to college, you did it, you understood it, and then you went and did something else that you actually loved even more than what you thought you might love.
Yeah.
And so that's great. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. A lot of people don't get that chance, so that's great. So you have kids?
I do. I have a daughter that just turned 7, and my son's turning 4 next week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've got 2 daughters, 4-year-old and a 9-month-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm loving that.
It's fantastic. The 4-year-old is at an age now that she is just, her personality is awesome.
Sure.
That age, it's great. The 9-month-old, she's
still
very
just
noisy.
Sitting there. Yeah. She still just sits there and cries. Yeah.
Right. She smiles every once in a while. But we just had our fireplace redone, and we came out of the room yesterday and found our 4-year-old up on the new hearth that was built, and there's like a spotlight that shines down on it. And she got up there and she was just repeating to herself, "Ladies and gentlemen, I need to show you something. Watch this." And we're like, "What are you doing?
Who are you talking to?"
So let me ask you this: with having kids, has your perception of the trades kind of shifted, or the definition of what you would call success shifted in relation to like how you would explain it to them compared to how it was explained to you?
Yeah, well, nobody explained it to me, right, as a kid, so I don't have that kind of background to go off of, but I fully expect my kids to get into this industry.
Yeah.
I think I was just listening to one of your podcasts where, I think it was Mike didn't want to push his kids into this industry. I fully plan to push my kids right into it. And when I go to work every day, or when I go to a trade show or whatever I'm doing, I look forward to people saying, "Oh, I knew your dad, and come over here and I'll help you out." So it is a big deal to me that my kids get into this trade. I think there's a lot of success that can be had here. So I think that's good for them. Mm-hmm. Plus, I think I can leave something behind that at least people will say, "Oh, I knew your dad. He took care of it." And whether they knew me for good reasons or not, right? My kids will at least have something to grab onto if they come in.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Being in the trades now for the last 8 years, has your perception changed, or did you even have a perception before of like when you saw a repair guy, or when you saw a tradesman working, construction workers in the streets, or the AC guys fixing the air conditioners? Did you have a prior perception and then a different perception now?
That's a good question. I definitely had a perception, and a negative one at that, right? So I definitely felt that techs were, rough, tumble, blue-collar guys, usually had a background where bad things happened in their past, sort of thing, needed to be in the space. When I first started in the industry, and maybe it was just my space, but techs weren't paid a ton, or it didn't feel like they were paid a ton. And so it was really easy to kind of have that hierarchy of these are low paid guys who aren't as smart as me, you know, or whatever it was, just because I sat in the office. So initially there was certainly that kind of a negative perception. As the years grew on, I mean, it was probably quickly taken out of me, but these are people that are 1,000 times smarter than I am, who also are making 1,000 times more money than I am too. It definitely changed my perception. Now, I do think that there are still those guys, and that's unfortunate for them, and it's unfortunate for that image, but there are a lot more people who are straight-laced, educated, and making good money and doing it because they want to make good money and they like using their hands. So.
Sure. Very cool. So tell me, what do you love most about what you do?
What do I love most about what I do? I just love being behind the scenes, right? So everybody knows about Amazon. Everyone loves Amazon. Everyone talks about Amazon. Well, I get to see Amazon's warehouses. I get to fix their air conditioners. I get to talk to their people and come up with these $1 million deals about what we can do for their spaces. So it feels like I'm a part of some giant thing that everyone's interested in, but I get to be kind of on the inside track behind the scenes. And that's probably what I love most about it. You know, Amazon, Starbucks, Best Buy, whatever it is, I like knowing that I've got this behind the scenes view. When we go out to, you know, my wife and I go out to eat, I love going to places where we work and saying, like, I know this building, I know what's going on here, I know the manager's here. So
see that duct? We did that.
right. See that thing leaking right there? That was our fault. So
I do that too, and my wife says, "Shut up."
yeah, exactly. My kids still love it. My wife's probably over it now, but the kids still love it. So that's probably what I love most about it, is just being able to be a part of something that feels much bigger than me.
That's cool. You know, I've heard that a lot from people I've talked to. You know, it seems to be between that, like being part of something bigger, you know, which I can only describe as like, you know, the industry or the company that you're working for is one big mechanism, you know, and you know, you being a guy in a position that would kind of orchestrate the gears, you know what I mean, and kind of build the new cogs to fit in the wheel, you know what I'm saying? So I get that mindset, and you know, I kind of I relate to that. The other thing I hear a lot is the ability to help people, whether that's customers fix a problem, whether that's technicians, you know, advance their careers, or just anybody, you know, within the industry, being able to inform them of, hey, this is what it really is.
Right.
You know, this might be what you think it is, but this is what it really is, you know, kind of pull back the veil a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
well, and for me, I love to stay busy, and I need to probably stay busy. My wife would tell you I need to stay busy, and this is an industry that can do that. You know, I've heard a lot of people complain, maybe not from the technician side, because they probably should, but from the office side, I've heard people complain about, you know, being on call, and I love it. I don't believe in a work-life balance. I just believe in life, right? So I love when my phone rings at 3 a.m. and somebody's got a leak that they need to have fixed. I like being involved in that. I like being available. A couple of years, probably only took about a year once I started in the industry, I got rid of a you know, quote unquote work phone, and I only carried my personal cell. And now everyone can call me at any time. I always have my phone, and I love being involved in those issues. We've been on family vacations, and I'm getting calls from Starbucks, and I love it, and my family loves it too. You know, we'd have a good working relationship with the fact that I'm always on call and I'm always working. So,
you know, that's a good perspective. I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel the same way, and you hear a lot of the exact opposite, right? You need to find and strike a good work-life balance. You know, you've got work over here, you've got personal over here. I always struggled with that, because I tried for years to do that, separate the work from the personal life, you know, because I thought that's the way it was supposed to be. But it wasn't until I actually, you know, I started running a company like this and really intertwined everything that, you know, I was able to kind of open my eyes and said, oh, yeah, there's just one thing. Okay,
Yeah.
Why the hell is everybody talking about, you know? But I agree with you, you know, it's a lot easier to stay focused and stay busy and stay, for lack of a better term, sane, intermingling both aspects. All it is communication.
Works for me. Yeah, it totally works for me. I love having it all in one piece. My home office, right, is work and home office. So
Yeah.
I think it's important to have it like that. I think it's important that my kids see me taking calls and see me solving problems and things. So it was a decision that we probably didn't make consciously, but now
Just
that
turned out that way.
now that it's happening that way, we wouldn't have it another way.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So tell me, what's your next step? Like you've been in the industry 8 years. You've gone to a couple of different places. What do you envision the next 10 years? Do you enjoy doing what you do so much right now that you want to continue doing that same thing? Or is there another aspect that you are trying to pursue?
I definitely plan to be here for 10, 20, 30 more years. Like I said, I just love this space. And I agree that I don't think it's for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
but I think most people don't realize that it's probably for them too, right? So I do plan on being here forever. I think that the whole space is probably going to change in the next 10 years. I mean, with the amount of technology coming out, I always consider facilities kind of the redheaded stepchild of technology. AI right now is doing all sorts of stuff for cancer and whatever.
Yep.
Eventually, it's going to make its way over to us. So I don't know what that looks like when people are wearing exoskeletons and lifting their own units on the roof. I don't know what that would look like, but I know I'll be here when that's happening. Mm-hmm. So I think in the next 10 years, the industry itself is going to go through some pretty big changes. But I'm excited for that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm glad you brought up AI because that's a question I get quite a bit, and something that I try to touch on is, like you said, there's a lot of industries going AI, automation, stuff like that. Even a lot of the food service places that we deal with. I mean, McDonald's has their kiosks now, and there's a couple other companies that have proprietary things that I probably shouldn't mention, so I won't. But automation is definitely a way of the future. And I've been trying to poke holes in this. So please, by all means, if you have a way, let me know. But tradesmen, the guys who fix the machines, how do you automate what a tradesman does? You can automate the manufacturing process, so don't get me wrong and don't confuse what I'm trying to say, but the manufacturing process is still dependent on machines, right? So how do you automate what a skilled tradesman actually does?
Right. My brother-in-law was just a year ago in a position where he needed to figure out a new career. And so, of course, I told him, HVAC, you go to school, you got to do it. And it came down to, for him, whether he wanted to be a truck driver or work in air conditioning. And, of course, I'm biased. But the first thing I did is sent him probably a dozen articles about how automated, robotic trucks are already on the roads, and he's not going to have a job for much longer. And he said, well, if that's going to happen to that industry, you're going to have the same thing happening to you. I said, well, listen, I do think someday there will be a robot that looks, acts, feels like a tech. But that's pretty far down the road. When you can have a robot climb up the ladder, throw in a new compressor, sweat out all the pipes. I mean, when that happens, that'll be a bad day for a lot of people. But that is years and years and years and years down the road. So I think what actually interests me a lot is I think that technicians are going to have to start working on that equipment. I think McDonald's is going to, in the next little while, be flipping burgers with robots.
Yeah.
Someone's got to fix that robot.
That's right.
So someone's still got to fix that robot. Someone's still got to fix the griddle that the hamburger's being cooked on. So I envision that technicians are actually going to be more important down the road, as long as they get that additional training.
Yep.
And then I think that technology is going to make it the barrier to entry for techs easier. I could imagine lots of things, but I just think that there's technology today that techs are wearing like essentially Google Glass, right? And they're looking at a unit and it'll tell them what's going on. So I think there'll be technology that makes it really easy or easier for a tech. I just don't see a tech getting replaced in my lifetime. But who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows what Elon Musk is working on?
Yeah, right. The next robotic HVAC tech.
Right.
No, but I think you hit the nail on the head. You're absolutely right. It is a long way down the road because it is so specialized. It is so tedious. It's tedious work, and you need to be able to think on your feet. Which I haven't met a whole lot of robots. In my defense, but
As far as you know.
right, exactly. But you're right. It's going to be hard to manufacture something that could replace a technician. And then once they do, because that day, I believe eventually will come, someone's still going to have to fix those machines, just like, the automated machines at these other restaurants we're talking about. That's
right. A lot of people will talk about how the retail apocalypse and what's going to happen when there's no more stores or whatever. There are still places holding product, right? We talked about Amazon earlier. There's still product there that has to be kept cool. There's still employees there that have to be kept cool. Server rooms,
Yep.
Even if it's just computers inside the building, they literally have to be kept cool. So I just don't see a time that technicians are going to be phased out.
No.
I don't think it's something that it's going to happen anytime soon.
I don't think so. We as humans require some basic fundamentals just to live and breathe. And, I think that the trades are basically responsible for keeping all of that in order and all of us alive.
Yeah.
Food's got to be kept cold. People have to be kept in an adequate temperature. We live in Phoenix, and now I know, there a lot of people lived out here for a long time without air conditioning, but they still had swamp coolers.
Yeah.
That's a form of cooling.
I don't know how they did it then either.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
I need it today. Yeah.
But the fact remains, you could throw a rock, and no matter what you hit, you can basically blame a tradesman for putting it there or building it.
Yeah.
And so it's just funny to me. There's a lot of people out there that consider the trades, and whether it's HVAC or masonry or heavy equipment, whatever it may be, they don't really see the value in it. They want to work with their mind, which is great. I agree with that. We need a lot of people to work with their minds, but when you want to work only with your mind and not with your hands, we've got a big problem.
Right.
Because the more people that want to start doing that, you need hands to build stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the beautiful thing about this industry and the trades is that you need both.
Yeah.
And then you can transition to a point one day when your body can't handle it anymore, that you can work only with your mind.
Right.
Whether it's teaching or managing or whatever it may be, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
And I think it will be necessary for a very long time.
Yeah. Whenever we go on a plane, my favorite thing to do is to look out the window, and as you're coming into a city, whether it's Phoenix or not, you'll see thousands of air conditioners. They're on every single building. Every single one. You cannot look at a building and it's not there. And I'm always reminded about job security. Those are there all the time.
Yeah.
This building's got probably 6 or 7 of them. There's tons of air conditioners. And we're just talking about HVAC.
Yeah.
And there's refrigerators, both residential and commercial. There's cooking equipment. There's all sorts of things in every space, in every building, that has to be maintained.
Mm-hmm.
Even in a commercial kitchen that's not serving the general public, but making things and putting them in packages and sending it off. We just got we're working with a local manufacturer that makes bottles. That's all they do, is they just make glass bottles. It is a huge facility that requires so much work on their air conditioning, on their refrigeration equipment. But you wouldn't necessarily think that unless you walked into that building and realized this is what it takes to keep this stuff going.
Yeah, it's not something you think about.
Yeah.
I know I didn't think about it, not until I really got into the industry. And even when I got into the industry, my niche was hot side equipment. I rarely thought about the air conditioning before, Windy City started doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because, and then even after we started doing it, it still took me a minute to be like, all right, well, now that we do HVAC and refrigeration, that opens the door. Now we can do retail facilities, we can do malls, we can do, it doesn't have to be commercial kitchens.
Yeah.
There's just, it can take you anywhere you want to go, which is just amazing in itself.
Yeah.
I don't know a whole lot of different professions that you can literally change your trajectory at will. and
crazy.
and go in any direction you choose. So, with that being said, one of the things that I like to say and I like to push is that instead of convincing people that the definition of success is graduating high school, going to college, getting a job, and working in that job the rest of your life, because that's basically, in a nutshell, and obviously there's variations, but in a nutshell, that is society's definition of success in today's America. What I like to do is change that up and say it's everybody's responsibility to live their own definition of success. And that's one of the things that I see the trades offering day in, day out to everybody in it, America's youth, just everybody, new and old. So what is your definition of success, and how are the trades helping you live that?
I definitely have a traditional view of success, right? I need to be able to retire. I need to be able to have my family fed. I need to, feel good personally. I need to feel fulfilled. And all of those things are happening because of the trades. So I work in the office, which is different from technicians. I wouldn't have that job if there wasn't technicians. But it has given me the ability to, my wife doesn't work. She goes to school. So it's given me the ability to put my wife through school. It's getting the ability to take care of my kids and have a nice house. It's really given me the ability to be, that middle class, or, whatever you want to call it. But it's given me that opportunity to be that person and not be so worried about the things that other people are worried about. Even in my own family, I've got brothers that are struggling. I've got brother-in-laws that are struggling because the economy is tough. And that just doesn't seem to be happening, at least from my perspective in my industry. None of the techs that work for me have those kinds of problems. They make great money. They're providing for their families. It is really unfortunate that there's that negative perception. I could go on. I have thousands of ideas about how to fix those perceptions, right? But if we could get people, especially young people, especially people still in high school, to realize that the trades aren't negative, and that there really is opportunities and success here, I think we would see a much different, result.
Yeah.
We talked about how it seems like technology takes a while to kind of get over to the trades. If we had more young people the same person who wants to work for Uber or work for Google, if they came and worked it for somebody in this industry and tried to help them get to that kind of a point, I think that technology would hit us a lot faster, right?
Yeah.
We're only getting the scraps because nobody thinks it's important enough to come down here. And I can tell you that there are national, Fortune 100, 500 companies that are spending billions of dollars a year on this.
Yep.
It's an important field.
Yeah.
I really wish we could just make everyone aware of that, right? One of my favorite ideas is that, I read articles all the time, and business articles and Inc. 5000 and, Forbes or whatever. And they're all talking about Elon Musk. They're all talking about Jeff Bezos, and now it's his divorce, right? But they all kind of idolize these people, and they talk about these people, and anything that these people say, people just eat it up. I think it'd be really cool if Elon Musk came out and said, hey, I have air conditioners. This warehouse has air conditioners. I have a guy on staff who fixes these air conditioners.
You know who did just come out and say that?
Who's that?
Richard Branson.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he put out a whole article about how HVAC is the future of
I totally didn't see that.
I'll forward it to you.
Yeah, I would love that. It's that kind of stuff. My little brother loves Elon Musk and was talking, I'm going to work for Elon and we're going to do it together, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
But you could still do that through the trades. I guarantee you Elon Musk is paying somebody to fix air conditioners at his warehouse and manage those types of machinery. And somebody's doing it. Yeah. Getting into that space is actually a lot easier than I think people realize because there's just not a lot of people doing it.
Let's talk about that for a second. I want to stop you just so it's fresh in my head. Because you're talking about Elon Musk, you're talking about Tesla, and I don't know how many people out there know where the name Tesla came from. Do you happen to know where the name Tesla?
I do happen to know where the name Tesla came from.
Basically, okay, in so many words, I'm not trying to dumb down history or anything, but an electrician is responsible for that name. An electrician is responsible for naming, one of the most sophisticated companies, in the world, because he disagreed with Edison on something.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about trades and you want to talk about the relations to what everybody idolizes today, just look at
how we got
Tesla.
here.
Just look at Tesla.
Yeah.
I mean, it's named after somebody who was a professional electrician.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, talking about history again, I won't be able to do it very coherently, but America started with industry, right? I mean, that's how we got our foot, and that's how we started growing, was through industry. So, mills and mining companies or whatever, there were trades that were happening and that people felt good about and needed to do them. Some point, it became kind of a dark secret, right?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But we had to have it then. We still are having it now. I don't think people realize how much we have it now. It's funny. I think a lot of people, take for granted their car mechanic. I mean, there's so many people in so many trades that you just don't realize are affecting you every single minute, every single day.
Yeah.
And if we could start really noticing that and really respecting that, I think is the big thing. I think if, using my little brother as an example, if he came home and said, I just got a job at Tesla, even if he said fixing their air conditioners, everyone would be so excited for him. If he said, man, I just got a job at Windy City fixing air conditioners, everyone would say, well, you got a job. Like, it just wouldn't have the same meaning. Even if you said I got a job for Train, right? Even if you did a big manufacturer, I think a lot of people just think that that's a blue collar, weird, kind of job. And that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, there's just a different view, a different reaction, and everybody you can feel it, like what you said. So how can we, if we have to start in high school, which I think is where we have to start, I like your idea. That's the first time I've ever heard somebody say that about, basically taking somebody who society idolizes and having them push the importance of the trades. I think that's a brilliant idea, and that somebody should do that. Somebody else besides Richard Branson, because
Richard Branson's a great start.
He is a great start, but what can we do in the high schools to turn this around a little bit? I thought about this a lot because shop class is coming out, budget cuts and stuff like that. Shop class is the first thing to go. Not a lot of kids are getting the hands-on experience that they once were. When they go talk to their guidance counselors or their teachers or their parents, nobody pushes them towards the trades unless they have experience themselves in the trades in some manner or another. So what can we do? What kind of massive push can somebody make to start getting these kids to see the how prosperous of a career and how prosperous of an industry it actually is?
Yeah. I have spent a little bit of time thinking about this, and I don't know the answer, is the short way to put it. I think that, I don't even know how to relate to high school kids anymore, right?
I know, right?
When I was in high school, money talked.
Yeah.
And that was really the big thing. Money talked. And I think that if we were able to show high school kids, look at what this job does for people, look at the kind of money that they're making, I think that would go a long way. I think that seeing a kind of a program, we keep talking about Elon Musk, but if Elon Musk said, hey, I would love to hire more facilities guys, but first they have to have 2 years of experience doing this and this and this, and kind of go down the line, I think a lot of people would say, well, I would love to be there. I'm willing to get into the trades and start heading that direction. So I think that there are ways of getting people interested, and I think especially for high school kids, they've got to see that big, important companies and people need it. It's the only reason they want to work for Google, right? Nobody was born
They want to say they work for Google.
They want to say they work for Google. So Google's another great example. They definitely have facilities guys.
Yeah.
They have huge offices. They have server rooms. They have all sorts of things going on. There is somebody responsible for keeping those people, in the office cool, for keeping the kitchen going, for keeping their server racks, not overheating. But no one thinks about that. They only think about that it's cool to be in the tech space, right?
Right.
I think Silicon Valley has kind of ruined that perception. If you're
Everyone
not,
wants to be a tech billionaire.
everyone wants to be a tech billionaire, which is great. And I would like to point out, I think that's also possible in this industry.
Yes.
And I think it's actually pretty wide open. I don't think enough people are here to actually have that.
Yeah.
So I think if we could get that kind of information to their hands, it would start removing that perception. But I think perception is really the big hurdle.
Yeah.
If kids don't think that it's cool or acceptable or, that they've somehow washed up into the trades or something, then I think you're always going to struggle getting people into it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right on that. And I've toyed with ideas too. Like even though they took shop class out of it, why not teach the theory of refrigeration in science class? Why?
Right.
I mean, if you can dissect a cat, or whatever.
Exactly.
In my
I've
high
never had to dissect a frog ever since, so I'm not sure what that tells
In
me.
my high school, they actually dissected cats. It was disgusting. Yeah, it was
high school were you going?
it was twisted. But no, it was an experimental high school. They actually didn't even have walls on any of the classrooms. There was a big commons area, 4 classrooms in the commons, and you could hear and see every other classroom because they didn't have walls on.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was a terrible failure. A lot of kids from my graduating class ended up pregnant or dead. It was
Perfect.
definitely not successful. They have since turned it into a regular high school and stopped dissecting
Yeah,
cats.
that's probably the right way to do it.
Yeah, but just something as simple as that. I mean, because you ask the question, really, why not?
Yeah.
We're teaching all this stuff in science and all the physics and all the classes that traditional high schools offer. Why not mention one time the theory of refrigeration?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't taught it. I know that. And physics was one of my favorite courses.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught about burner combustion.
Yeah.
I would have been a whole lot further along had I been, taught that. But I think that's a good way to start too. But the main thing is, you're right. It's the perception. It's the feeling that I want to be a tradesman.
Yeah.
That's what we need to bring back.
Yeah. Yeah. It is something that keeps me up at night, because I hire technicians, and every time I hire a technician, it was harder than the last time. There's less people, less qualified, right? So it's getting harder and harder, and there's going to come a point where someone's air conditioner is going to go down, and there won't be someone there to fix it. And I feel like, a lot of things that happen in the world, whenever it's that dire, finally we get some attention on it. And I worry that that'll be a little too late.
Yeah.
But if we could get people interested, if we could get people aware that this is the great thing, it would really just change, how people treat it. Starbucks today, you can go work at Starbucks, which nobody feels like that's a bad thing to do, right? And they'll pay for your college. Well, it would be really great if Starbucks said, hey, come work for us, and we're going to pay for you to go to HVAC school.
Yeah.
If more companies were saying those kinds of things, more people would be aware of it, more people would start doing it, and eventually you get enough people saying, hey, this is great, and you wouldn't have such a perception issue.
Yep.
But I think it has to start, I think it's such a global perception now that it has to also be a global fix.
Yeah.
We need, it can't just be me and you, it has to be large companies, Richard Branson, whatever, coming out and saying, this is the way to go.
I think you're absolutely right. Big personalities, big companies,
Yeah.
Big influencers in today's society coming out and saying, this is the way to go.
Mike Rowe does a lot of work in
Yeah.
that kind of space. He really wants to get people in there.
Scholarship Foundation.
Scholarship
and stuff like
foundations.
that.
He's always doing speeches about it. He's always trying to get people interested, and it's still not working. And if Mike Rowe can't do it, we need some help, right? So it makes me think that we just really need a much bigger, much more global push, because one or two people saying it here and there just doesn't seem to be getting enough people to drive into it.
Absolutely. And FYI, Mike Rowe refused to give me a blurb on my book. Mike, I'm going to remember that. It's all right. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and I don't know how long we've been doing this. I don't do well at keeping track of time, but I'm sure we're nearing people's attention span when it comes to this. So, Micah, I really appreciate you coming on. Is there anything else that you want to say before we hop off?
It's a great industry. I really hope that someone's listening to this and someone gets passionate about it. And if they want to understand why it's a great industry, you and I can both help them see that. So hopefully someone heard this today, forwards it along, and get some extra people interested.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being here, man. I appreciate the chat.
Love it.
All right.